All right, what's the date today? Friday the 13th, the special community dinner event, the Friday the 13th talk on the crystallization of thought. Thanks for watching. This is our third week exploring this, so I'm going to throw out a couple of things with you guys and see where it goes. So today I made this. Those of you watching the video, this is going to be on a link, if you can look at it there, but you can get a quick look here. So in alchemy, like the Hermetic tradition from Hermes in Egypt thousands of years ago, the alchemy tradition was it was the Western version of yoga, in my opinion. And alchemy has a very simple model that they use it in anthroposophy. Steiner uses it. The top realms are the realms of air, not very dense. The middle realms are composed of the blood, sangre, which is the mediator to the salt, which is the form of the bottom. And that's kind of what this is representing. See dense down here, very diffused above. That's the word, diffused. Very diffused above. And this can all be felt. The Hindu model is the chakras. So if you actually sit with each chakra and feel what's going on with each energy center, there's a densifying as we go down and a diffusing as we go up, a definite felt sense of that. And that's really what I'm here to teach, because I've been doing this for 30 years, a daily scan of myself and checking in with each of those energies or spirits or elementals or whatever you want to call them, because earth, air, water, and fire are the mediators to the other realm. And the other realm is the realm of the Father, or the greater world, as they call it in alchemy. And this is the lesser world, not a value judgment per se, but the world of duality is less than the greater world, where you're sort of more in the absolute realms, etheric realms, astral realms. But the contention of one yoga teacher, you can see where this is going now, Yogananda's guru, Sri Yukteswar, wrote a series of yoga sutras. And it's called the Great Science. And he's talking about the great science of how human souls evolve. And his contention in the sutras is that if we could all manifest our thoughts and feelings instantly, this world would be in chaos. So therefore, we have to create at a time delay in this realm and learn how to create properly before we're allowed to graduate to the realm where we can create instantly. I kind of feel a resonance with that. What's everybody think about that? Do you feel a resonance with that? Like we're here in the slower school, so we don't make a mess. Because we are making a mess. And we're still making a mess, right? And so we're being taught in some natural law, universal law of justice, that there's cause and effect. I'll give you one example. That's why I pick on people, because I hate seeing people suffer from their own hand. I was engaged to a woman many years ago, and she would eat a whole bag of Oreos, literally a whole bag. And then an hour later, she would complain about her stomach ache, how cold she was, and how rotten she felt. And if anybody knows me, you know how brutal that can be. I just got right in her face and reflected it back. Like, you are sick because of your own choice. And I don't feel one bit sorry for you. It's cause and effect. Now, the deeper question would be, why did I choose to do this to myself? Then I get interested. Why did I choose to do this to myself? Then I'm interested. I don't want to hear the freaking whining and complaints, because that's the sign of an energy drain. The deeper question is, why am I doing it? Where's my trauma? Where's my fear? What's underneath that's driving this? So I want to numb myself, because that's what's at the root of it. Some of us, it's slow suicide. I want out. That was my path. I'm alive in spite of myself. Many of us can probably resonate with that. I'm alive in spite of myself. So I know there's angels guiding all of us right now, because I felt them on every minute of my drive that way on out to Oregon and back. The grace of what would happen to me, the synchronicities, was incredible. So there's something else guiding each of us in this world now. And that's why I'm bringing this up. You've seen those Christian and the Tibetans where you see the beatific angels flying above, and there's some earth entities in the middle, and then there's the demons down below. That's exactly what this is. Same thing, just different conceptual model. So the demons down below are the lower world. In our lower world, it's our first, second, and third chakras: fire, water, earth. And these can all be felt, and they all have a relationship with the one above. So the third is a relationship with the fifth, the second with the sixth, and the first with the seventh. So if you're too hot here, you send some energy down to the bottom. This is the teaching that we're going to be using in the future, but I'm just happen to be ahead of the game. So if I have a thought form, here we go. I have a thought form that's embodying. See, ascension is the desire of the form to go to the formless. This is the Heart Sutra in Buddhism, by the way. That's what form is emptiness, emptiness is form. They recite that over and over and over again in their language. Form is emptiness, emptiness is form. Doing that for hours and hours and hours. And that's what this model is showing us. The formless gets bored being formless. So it desires the drama of duality, the theater of this world. And then the part of us that's here desires ascension out of the polarity and suffering. So in between that, we have different types of ways that we see the phenomena becoming of the body. We have dreams, we have goals, we have thoughts, we have emotions, we have reactions, we have responses, we have general arisings, we have true premonitions, right? We have sexual lusty stuff, some of us. And you know, we have these models to type people. These models to type people. And like the Enneagram, right? There's one. There's sexual subtypes and mental subtypes. And what's the third one? There's three: mental, sexual, social, I think, social subtype. And there's astrology, there's metabolic typing, there's yin and yang, there's 5 elements and 4 elements and 3 elements like Ayurveda has. But they're all just conceptualizing the natural laws already at work. I was asking myself this at age 5 and 6, like, how does this whole dog and pony show run? Because this is weird. Reading J.R. Tolkien going, there's probably more truth in that J.R. Tolkien stuff than that stupid Bible over there. I knew that at age 5. So what the last 50 years has given me is I can give you a report. This is what I've seen. This is how life works. I don't really like books much anymore, because as my teacher Adyashanti says, the more I know myself, the less I know about myself. Krishnamurti would term that, once the child names the bird, he no longer knows the bird. Once you name the bird, you no longer know the bird. You've gone into concept. Jesus would say, you're rich. You're a rich man. You're rich with concept. Chief Tial would say, I can't teach you anything because you already know everything. That's what Chief Tial told the white man. I can't teach you anything because you already know everything. So we're in this world now of the obvious mysteries unfolding around us. The eye of Orc, or whatever that freaking thing is that's running the world, the satanic whatever, is showing itself, right? It's showing itself, this dark whatever. And for me, it's not even a surprise, because I've been reading fantasy novels since I was 5 years old. It's like, oh, of course, there's this weird evil entity and it's dark and light and duality. And so how can I make my life heaven is the question. Because the peace we seek is always and already here. So if it's always and already here, then what do I do to unenlighten myself from the inherent peace that's always and already here? Well, we call that programming, folks. By choice and by the societal stuff, right? When you have the people worshiping false idols, like we do now, then you end up with a world like we have. Right? If money becomes the end goal, then you end up with a lot of distortion in reality, don't you? To be honest, there are people that they talk about money, and these doctors, they talk about money, and I don't give a crap about money. It's never even in my thought field. People say, Craig, you forgot to bill me. Oh yeah, that's right. I don't care. I got food on my table, good people around me, plants, people that love me. That's all secondary. If money is driving our decisions, we're worshiping the false idol. And the Lord knows that on some level, because it's always and already here. So then the question is, how can I be better? Well, you know what the easiest answer is? Follow your breath. Because when you're breathing, you're here, and then the mind gets quiet. And so food was always my angle. I was told after I broke my neck at age 21 that if I didn't do the path of purity, I wasn't going to make it very long. And all the reflections along that first 10 years really showed me that. So food isn't the end all of everything, but it is also the foundation for building the temple that we call our body. And so I upset and offend a lot of people because I just don't eat what I know isn't good for me. If my body says no, it's like, I don't care how you think or feel about it. It's my temple. It's my land. It's my property. I'm not going to defile it with that food combining thing that's not going to work for me. So when you spend 20, 30 years like I have, I know what works and what doesn't. And I'm not willing to step out of the social bounds to make myself suffer so you can be happy with me eating your whatever. It's a social convention and I don't care anymore because I'd rather feel good than make someone else happy at my expense. But we're still doing it, a lot of us. Oh, peer pressure, I better eat that because somebody's asking me. I don't give a crap. My well-being from my heart says no. And you don't want me to honor that to make you happy? What the heck is wrong with you? We got work to do, folks. You know, like if somebody doesn't want to go to the movies with me or go out with me, it's like, move on. Well, but you should. You're just sitting home doing nothing. How come you don't want to go? Because I don't want to go. Something personal. I just don't want to go out, you know? So this is why we do groups and why we get together and hammer this stuff out. So anybody ever say some Abraham Hicks? All right. So there's a mantra that I've been using out of that book, Asking It Is Given. How does that thought feel? So that's the fastest way to see how does that thought feel? Because what's an emotion? What is an emotion? Energy in motion. It's a Xeroxed thought occurring in your feeling body. How does that thought feel? So it's a way to flag a bad feeling state faster so it doesn't drag on for months and years. Well, I don't feel very good. What was that thought I just had? Oh, that's a dark thought. Maybe I should reverse that dark thought and think about something brighter. But these don't go question. See, and we roll along with the steamroller called the storyteller, keep believing the stories, and then our body gives us the suffering of the stories that the mind's telling us. You guys following this?
Yep.
So what we need are more pattern interrupts, don't we? And that's what yoga is. That's what breathing is. But mainly, you know what the word is? It's grace. If grace doesn't want us awake, we're not going to be awake. If we're not meant to be awake, we're not going to be awake. Zen Buddhism has an aphorism for this. You're not the doer. So if we're not the doer, then relax. In Taoism, they say act without acting, do without doing. What the hell does that mean? It means act in an uncontrived way. Act as if when there's a decision, I have to do this or that, then you've gone too far in your embodiment. When we're in Satori, in the moment, there is no decision to be made. We're just going along because it feels right. I've spent 15 years looking at this with my teacher. So I asked him, the last conversation with Adyashanti was 8 years ago in front of 300 people at Innerlight about this. So what you're telling me, Adyashanti, then, is that the best I can do is try and follow what's already arising in me. He's like, absolutely. The best any of us can do is to align with what's already occurring in us in the direction that it wants to go. It's not personal. There's a transpersonal force actually running our lives. And that's why I do yoga, because I want that force running my life, not the little guy in here. Because this guy's shadowy. This guy isn't. And a Navajo shaman told that to Carl Jung near the end of his life, because Jung wanted to know how the Indians viewed the white man, not very favorably. But this one Navajo shaman said, you've all heard this many times, you white men, but you think from here. Jung goes, of course we do. He goes, no, we think from here. He points to his chest. It's much different. I was telling Annie this. No, I was telling this lady on the phone today. What they didn't get 12,000 years ago, whatever in Atlantis, was they chose power over love. That's where we're at right now. Versus third, fourth chakra thing. We're choosing power and control because of trauma over love. And this whatever 0.5%, 1%ers, they don't have any feeling anyways, because this is all stratego board for them. And if you can't go there, then you're never going to be able to fix the problem, because there are beings that I can go there because I got that part of me. And they just don't give a crap, and they'll kill and slaughter and do whatever it takes. And so sword comes out and the brave hearts of the world stand up. You understand, Lars? I got my sword out a lot right now, but I don't want the women to be scared, or the kids or the elderly, right? But the warriors have to stand up now, because there may be fighting. And you can't sit and pray like apocalypse now in front of while everyone's fighting around you, because you're going to get killed. So there's another way to align. It's not to be in the situation in the first place, but if God puts you in a situation, well, you gotta find your way through it. And that's what this is about, is staying clear. What what I have to teach allows you to stay clear and discerning versus judging. Judgment is emotion-ridden. Discernment is neutral. It's just factual. Craig is holding a clear mason glass with a yellow-colored liquid in it. Discernment. Judgment would be, I don't like clear glasses. Right? Judgmental, polarized, contracted. And we haven't even been tracking this. But this is what Castaneda teaches, what the yoga teachers teach, is this pattern interrupt. So the divine transpersonal force can break through. Because we don't wake up. The force that's already living in us wakes up through us. And the ego pretty much goes on as is. And that's fine. Because these are pretty awesome things these earth suits, I call them. I believe the point of it for a lot of us right now is to move through our trauma and then let that transpersonal force come through, because that's what Reiki is. When I do healing, I'm healed, ideally. When I sit up here teaching, I don't want my little me talking. I want to be a channel for the divine to come through me to give you what you need. That's always my goal. As a healer, my goal is to fire myself as fast as possible so that person can learn what they need to know and they can learn to fish instead of me feeding fish all the time. I get really mad at practitioners. These $1 million practitioners. I'm sending Dean over to one, actually. I'm not going to name her name on the film here, but it drives me crazy. They cram in these little 15-minute appointments. Plus, we'll test you, send you on your way. Is that healing? No. Healing is a 2-hour appointment. Intimacy, tears, vulnerability, honesty, root cause, trauma, exploration, investigation. Not, we got to teach you how to fish, man. So practitioners are being taught. I was in these schools of how to extract as much as you can from their clients on their way to healing. Get your 9-visit program, even though if they only need 3, move it on to 9, and you got your constant income. Well, that's a fear-based way of living. And a true client that's open will sense that person a mile away and stay away from that person. I'm going to be blunt. Most of the naturopaths in this area, they're stupid, nothings, because I end up with their clients. Charge $500 and give a pathetic lab work report. When I get the same person for $100, I've given them 7 insights that changed their life that the naturopath could have given, but didn't even know. Oh my God. So, we're in dire need of what I have to give. So that's the call to action, is just sit in the fire. Because it's not bad. It's kind of warm in the fire. Lots of people in the fire, Little pause there. And then the next slide. The next slide. So I like the Chinese medical model of how the one becomes the many in us through emotion. So there's this prism of emotion. Some of them are uplifting, like joy, right? Some of them are sort of contractive, like fear. And so each of them has a certain flavor. There's a color associated with each emotion in Chinese medicine, because color has a frequency which matches the frequency of the emotion. So if you wear red a lot, you could go into bipolar land, or you could just enjoy the warmth of red, right? Red, orange, yellow, warming colors. Blue, green, purple, cooling colors. Did I miss anything out there? Everything in between. So each of these has an element associated with it, an emotion, an organ system, a meridian system, and acupuncture. It's too bad Jonty isn't here. Jonty, we miss you. Hope he watches this. And so there's these correspondence charts that will fill up this entire page of the sound, the color, the emotion, the positive one, the negative one, the astrological sign associated with it. I mean, it just goes on and on and on. So, I spent this stuff diligently for 10 years, and it's like, okay. So when joy is arising, then it's a sign that I'm in a discerning state of what the Greeks call agape, which is the overflow of natural love. The uncontrived appreciation. When you got to do the dutiful appreciation. Like we were talking about the negative thoughts earlier. Then that's the grace came in to actually do that. That's the good part. So what I'm giving gratitude for first is, thank you, grace, for waking me up out of my delusion. That to me is the most important appreciation, is because I'm not in control of that, but I can give appreciation to that, whatever that is. You get that? That's why they have the songs Amazing Grace. How sweet. They sing about Amazing Grace, you know. There you go. So what's the negative counterpart to joy? It's a negative fire element emotion.
Anger.
No, that's close. See, anger's over here.
Sorry.
Right. Sadness. So if you have a coin here, then joy is one side of the coin, sadness is the other, because we're in the dualistic world. And then discernment would be one side of the coin, judgment on the other. So when I talk about bipolar, then the bipolar person is manic, which is too much joy. I knew this alcoholic client many years ago. When he was in a manic phase, he would give away thousands of dollars. And his wife left him because they were out of a house at one point. Then he was in a depressive phase. He had to be on medication. Bipolar, right? Top and bottom. So that's a blood sugar issue. Is what that is.
Yeah, it's not a mental issue. It's what you put into your body.
There could be a soul issue, you know, like I don't want to stay present, so I'm going to go in manic or depressive. Because if I'm present, then I have to feel something that I don't want to feel. And that's where when we're in like a talk like this, or when you sit in front of my teachers, I knew if I got distracted or tired that I was up against something internally that I didn't want to face. So notice when you're in a healing group, you get distracted or tired, then you're in avoidance.
So you kind of talk about five element theory.
Yes.
I mean, joy is to do with the heart, and then sadness is to do with the lungs.
Pardon? Which is?
Sadness is to do with the lungs. People that have, what can I say?
I'm going from Chinese medicine. So macrobiotics and TCM doesn't agree on a lot of this. So I'm going with my own experience here. Okay. So joy and sadness. No, grief is in the lungs.
Yeah, grief.
Grief is in the lungs. It's the metal element. Sadness comes out of the fire element. I can show you 10 books on this. So it doesn't matter. There's a force at work there. You call it whatever you want to call it. But
what do you think about anxiety?
So let me finish the fire element here. So we're on this fire element thing. And the reason I'm started there is because it's easy to talk about joy and sadness. We can all relate to that. And in the cosmic cycle, the cycle always starts down at the bottom at fear, which is the water element. All life comes out of water. So the negative part of it's fear. So what's the counteracting positive state of being to overcome fear? In our own experience. Trust works. Faith works.
Courage.
You're right. There's no wrong answer in any of this, by the way. We're on a conceptual model. The clearest answer according to this model is willpower. You feel the fear. I've got a 20-foot wave in front of me. I'm a surfer. A lot of fear. I could get crushed. Well, I got to push through with my will. My trust, my faith, right? Whatever you want to call it. I think it's the same thing. There's some force that says I can make it through this.
Triumph of the will.
Triumph of the will, right? It overcomes all fear, right? Then that's the dream. So the dream's taking form and it goes into the plasma or the wood element, as they call it in Chinese medicine. And there's this plasma, fast growing energy that's moving up. Like when a seed sprouts, you've got roots going down and top going up. So it's this energy that's spreading out in all directions. Like an explosion. And they call that wood element. And that the emotion is anger, but there's a positive part to this too, right? So what's the positive aspect? So let me give you a clue. Ted Kapchuk, in one of the first books on Chinese medicine that I ever read, said, anger is nothing more than blocked creativity. Wow, that was amazing insight. Anger is nothing more than blocked creativity. Wasn't this the creativity down here? See, it's trying to work its way up. So could be sabotage. I mean, I got a long past of sabotage. Right? Anger is a good way to get rid of everybody. Nobody wants to be around an angry person. Everybody leaves, right? Oh, I'm alone again. Right?
Self-sabotage.
Yeah, it was self-sabotage. Yeah. So the Hendricks talk about that in the Big Leap quite a bit, or inner saboteur. That's another topic. So we get stuck in this anger. So is anger a real emotion, or is there always something kind of underneath it? I think there's always something underneath it myself, like fear, grief, sadness. Like somebody cuts me off on the freeway, I get angry. I'm only angry because I'm scared shitless. I'm going to die, right? Going down the freeways in LA or San Jose, Costa Rica. Oh my God, you know, a lot of fear. But you get angry because anger is the sword that we talk about in the men's work of the wild man protecting the child. So if we're aware of that, like I'm aware when my sword comes out now, and it's like, okay, I don't want to use that. Take a breath. Like Drew is my model right now for calm deliberation. That's how I'm engaging people at the farmer's market. And that's why you became my friend, was watching him, people engage, where I'm getting passionate and blowing people out of the water. He's over there just, like, I gotta be more like this guy. Because he gets his message across and I don't sometimes. So there's this, this doesn't work sometimes. You got to go to, so how do we overcome anger? There's these control cycles. The hint is metal element, metal cuts wood. The emotions associated with the metal element are fluidity and able to take in and let go.
That's what I was about to say. I didn't want to sound funny, but she calm is what I was saying.
Right, the ability to be fluid, right? The anger comes, let the anger go. And realize that there's a creative process occurring and I'm just a little blocked right now. And even if the creative process is just to stay alive in traffic. My brother and I have a game. We drive over Highway 17 to Los Gatos. We have a game for each other. We used to talk about all the time, is try and not get triggered once on that drive over. It's never happened. I had one where I only got triggered once. But I get triggered in traffic because I get scared, and I'm an offensive driver. So I probably shouldn't be triggered. I'm triggering others too. So just to realize, like, we're trying to go through a creative process. Like my dream is just to stay alive. So I'm getting angry because I'm in fear, right? Then it moves up to the fire element, because when wood feeds fire. This is a wood element, it feeds fire, right? And the fire of the sun, joy, causes plants to grow and fruit. So this is the end of the year, the harvest time, early fall, autumn, earth element. So the general positive part of when we're connected with our center is empathy. We have a natural connection to everything around us, right? We're connected. And then the disassociative states, anxiety, worry, brooding, there's other variations, I'm sure. So how do we overcome anxiety? If we're stuck in it, lost in it, First of all, grace, I guess. And then what's next?
Breathe, breath, breathe.
Let's see. Water, wood controls earth. Breathing. Oh yeah, you could breathe and bring the energy down. Sure. That's one method. The Chinese would have a very strict way of doing this. They say wood controls earth via retaining walls, right? So the liver controls digestion, the liver. So there's this thing about, let's see, empathy, anxiety, brooding, worry. Use the fire of the anger to burn away the worry, I guess is what they would say. I don't know. You got any insight on that one? Overcoming anxiety with the liver energy.
Well, you mean with anger?
No, the positive part of the fire element, the fiery of the liver, right?
How to overcome anxiety? Well, I think the breath thing was a good one.
Breath. Okay, you resonate with the breath. Anybody have anything else?
I mean, I would say, obviously, which goes along with the breath is finding spiritual practice. And if you can get in touch with your breath and get to, let's say, a deeper place, then you get rid of the fear and you get rid of the anxiety.
Right.
So that's what
Burning through the emotion. So you let go of what's extraneous because it burns through it, right?
Right. So there's ways to engage that directly. Another way is the Byron Katie work. You just inquire, how would I feel without that thought?
why singing.
Right.
Yeah, I think singing's a very
Singing. Oh my God. Yes. Singing.
Powerful.
That's what you need to do when you're driving over
Very
17
yeah.
or music.
Sure. Well, I have kirtan music almost playing 24/7, so I sing to that. So that's great.
Chanting, yeah, chanting.
Just realizing there's anxiety and naming it sometimes is enough. Oh, there's anxiety present. So sometimes it's a simple naming practice, because when I do meditation, I try not to get too engaged with anything. So it's like, oh, anxiety, maybe I could just let it be. And then it generally.
Yeah, swimming helps me. I swim and then I feel better. Get anxious, I'm stressful, tired, or whatever.
It controls your breathing.
I go and swim and it
Right.
goes,
Exercise.
it helps you breathe out, fill up your
Oh, yeah.
lungs.
Yeah,
exercise.
that's
It moves the energy. So
Movement.
that always helps me.
Like trauma release stuff is generally shaking, right? There's a book called Shaking Medicine. So anything where you're moving and getting your stuff moving, you're going to be releasing stuff. So then the last one is grief. And this is where if the energy is doing this on this side of it, it's opening up, and on this side of it, it's closing down. That's where we're at right now. We just passed August 1st, which in paganism is a halfway point between the summer solstice and the fall equinox.
Right.
And Beltane is the other between the spring and the summer. And they're powerful points because that's kind of like the apex of summer, August 1st. We passed that, and now we're in the contraction. The light, the time's getting less. It'll start cooling down soon, believe it or not. But we have this strange Indian summer here, right? It'll be 100 degrees up until November 1st, pretty much around here, like head scratcher. But then you talk about geoengineering, well, they're still doing that. So this last piece, I spent a lot of time with because I just generally didn't get it. And I was an allergy guy, so my lung capacity was horrible. My ability to be fluid with life was horrible. I would generally just not let anything in and then store stuff in for years and I don't know how to get rid of it. And that's a broken metal element, they would say in Chinese medicine. So in one of my YouTube videos, I talk about this, that the higher level of health here is fluidity. An emotion comes, you let it come in, you feel it fully, and it moves on. You're in a bad situation, you say something to say, you regret it, you give repentance, apologies, you move on. Cortisol surge comes, deer jumps in front of your car. The cortisol is processed by the liver and out of the body in seconds, ideally. That's a fluid person. They're not tethered to the past, and they're not tethered to the future.
Right.
That's fluid. So grief to me is nothing more than you're stuck in that cycle of letting go and taking in. That's why the large intestine, the lung are the paired organs in this system. What do they share in common? In action. That's what I have to teach. I don't give a crap about chemistry per se, because chemistry doesn't work when you're out in the field in real life. That's why I teach what I do, is because I got my hands and a pencil. I can look at your eyes, tongue, and face and do a few tests, and I can tell you exactly what's going on with you. I don't need all that crap. And that's what I'm here to teach, is we're not going to survive with AI. That's the Antichrist.
They don't need us.
That's the Antichrist.
Not necessary.
You know, we can use the AI, but we don't want to be used by it, because it's not life. It's made by an ego. It's not life. I will take life and death decisions in nature any day than
Do you know
some
what
AI.
EGO stands for?
No, what does it stand for?
Itch God out.
Hmm.
I don't know. I've heard
Well, that's
it.
interesting.
I've heard of it.
It makes sense.
Mm-hmm. So the ego is a function. It's what tells you to put food in this mouth versus that mouth. So it's an important function not to get rid of. Because there was yogis in India that they've lost it and they don't know which mouth to feed. And they're going to the bathroom, they don't know who's going to the bathroom. I'm not joking. It's a highly dissociative state is what it is, right? So the psychiatrist would say. But people do have, I read thousands of books about this. I was fascinated with enlightenment. An experience at 25. And I went on 14 years trying to figure out what the heck this thing was, enlightenment was. I mean, oh my God, the stories and the books and experiences, like what the? And what, the guy doesn't even know who's breathing? No, I'm over here somewhere, but my body's over there. What? So the ego is a function we need, right? For protection. There's a Taoist saying in the Tao Te Ching, if you don't know when to fear, you are in fearful danger. That's a lost ego thing, or it's arrogance, which I'll take the arrogant side myself. Driving a car 55 miles an hour, playing Dukes of Hazzard at age 21 like I was, that's what that is. You know, I should have a little fear running. Surfing over razor sharp rocks, Lars, like, right? You have a little fear, you're gonna get in trouble, right? What time is it?
Yeah.
How are we doing? All right. I guess any questions thus far? Because there's foods that tie in with this. There's colon stuff, but what really brought this up was I popped my joints many years ago. It's like pop, pop, pop. And I like, oh. I told the story of the lady that I'm doing body work on, and this is the number one story. Hanging out, and she goes, just hang out there for a minute. I'm getting kind of angry. I'm like, ooh, juicy. Hanging out. And she goes quiet for about 3 minutes. And then she goes, okay, I'm done. Get up. And she goes, what just happened? She goes, oh, I went back to this memory I'd forgotten for 40 years of being in the pool at 8 years old, and my uncle was groping me. And so that was crystallized thought form in her body. You're a body worker. You see this stuff? I see it all the time.
I mean, you know, are you saying you're feeling the crystallization?
No, I'm saying, do your clients give you reports like, oh my God, I had this huge release of emotion when you did this over here?
Yeah, I've had that. It's more when I've done like Reiki. I mean, what I do as far as I do a combination, I use a lot of shiatsu. But they always feel good afterwards. Yeah, but Reiki is pretty powerful, as far as transformation. I had one woman that I gave a Reiki treatment, and she got up, she said, okay, now I know what I need to do. She had a big thing going on in her life. She needed to make a change. So yeah, I have had that happen, but not so much recently. I don't know why that is. People more talk to me about their health and, what they need to do to deal with some kind of issue with their health.
Right, and we're also in a big stew pot of fear since COVID started, and that was by design, of course.
Now I
So
don't talk to them because everybody's coming in telling me, I'm totally vaccinated, don't worry. Sort of thing. It's like, ah.
Wow.
So I just keep really quiet right now. Actually.
Right.
Huh?
what we're dealing with
Yeah.
energetically, what we're dealing with is a bunch of layers on the perfection of life. They've added these layers on, so people are they're so armored away from reality, they don't even know where to find it. And then you see the confusion everywhere, right? People know what to believe, and like they asked Carl Jung if he believed in God, and he said, no, I know God directly. That's what I want for each of us. You know you're divine directly. We don't need no intermediaries. Well, that bullshit with the church, and you got to have the priest to know God, and it's the same thing now. You got to have the doctor intermediary, or the HHS, or the CDC, or whatever three-letter agency, or Fauci or Gates doesn't approve of, even though they're not even in government. It's like, or what is wrong with you people? So at this point, then, our natural immunity takes care of us quite easily. If we're eating what we need, then knock on wood, I haven't been sick. I used to get sick every month until about 15 years ago when I cleaned my guts out. I've been sick in 15 years. I make myself sick from stupid decisions. Yes. Drinking too much coffee, smoking too much weed, surfing too much. It's like, that's called self-responsibility. That's not sickness. That's a sickness in the consciousness, what that is.
Surf too much? Is there such a thing?
I have a friend. Yeah, I do have a friend. He's in avoidance. He surfs a lot, or he works out. Exerciseaholic. Yeah, definitely a shadow for some people. I mean, anything in excess, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Anything in excess, because it's usually an avoidance pattern. I don't want to feel, because I'll just avoid, and then I don't have to feel this mysterious thing that I don't even know where it's taking me. Back to that, the picture there. I'm running on this bridge and it's burning behind me, but I don't even know where the hell I'm going. That's kind of the way the world is right now. Shit, we need people with vision right now, like seventh generation vision, Talking with my buddy I've known for 30 years since he was my college roommate, and he came through the Navy, mechanical engineer, and he was on a nuclear submarine for 2 years, kind of an engineering genius. You'd love this guy, Drew.
A nuclear submarine blast.
So he's a Capricorn ruled by Saturn, and I'm this Taurian Aquarian guy ruled by nothing. And so when we met, it was like the Odd Couple. Remember the Odd Couple show? It was like the Odd Couple. And I was mostly vegetarian at the time, and he was mostly meat eater. So fast forward 30 years, and he what was my point on that? Shit.
Differences.
Well, he's had his own awakening process. Like we talk about UFOs now, and we talk about things that he normally wouldn't have opened up. So I guess the point is that by just exposure, he's cracked open enough to see the truth, enough that he doesn't need an intermediary either. And that kind of longevity is what I seek in my relationships. I have a 30-year relationship with this man. I call him Marky, and he's 6'4", 240. He calls me Craigie. It's a very intimate relationship we have. His wife to be, I was working with at a Hobie's restaurant. And so when he met his wife, I already knew her. And then there was a whole divorce around her cheating on him. And I watched him raise 3 children on his own when she went off and cheated and partied and left him on his own. And that's why he's still one of my best friends, because I know how his kids treat him. They treat him with respect because he put in the time. Yeah, he wasn't perfect. Lars, a good example. My friend Mark is about 6-7 years beyond you, but imagine your wife cheating on you twice and then losing in court because your wife's father is a rich mofo and he lost $250,000 in lawyer fees and $750,000 in housing, even though she was the one at fault, and proof so in court. But the lawyers with their little loopholes. And I guided him through that, talked him out of his suicidality. He met the woman of his dreams. She's been with her for 6-7 years. And that's what life does, is you either take the hammer and let yourself be chiseled, or you step out of the ring. And he didn't leave. He stayed in the court and he raised these kids. And he wasn't perfect, but he hung in there. And that's my report to you. Just hang in there, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, just hang in there, man.
I got a text from my son today, and it was just funny.
Oh.
He's just 11. And he's like, Dad, if you don't pick up your phone, I'm gonna shoot.
You can pause too. I didn't know you could pause. That's pretty cool. Let's see, I guess. So the next couple of weeks, I'm going to present something different, which is sort of more storytelling format. So for those that want to do like a story, we might have like 5 minutes each and tell a story about a particular topic about how we came to some realization where we were in shadow for years before. My favorite kind of stories is how people meet and become couples and how people overcome their shadowy tendencies. I think I'm just going to end for you new guys because it might be a good review for some of the other ones, but just get this on the recording. This is from Stephen Herod Buhner. You familiar with his work? Herod Buhner?
No.
Buhner. Stephen Herod Buhner has a series of books about Lyme, but what really drew me to him was 2 books. One written in the 90s called The Lost Language of Plants.
Yeah.
And the more recent one is called Plant Intelligence and the Imaginal Realm. So in this newer book, he has this chapter about entheogens and the sensory gates. And this is part of my crystallization of thought conversation. So when we have joints cracking and whatnot, I believe it's crystallized thoughts. And I've seen with enough body work and enough gut work that there is stuff embedded in this earth suit. And they're salt crystals of unprocessed trauma. And then we have ways to get them out. When I was purging my gut and parasites were coming out and mucoid plaque was coming out, I was having memories of my childhood, like, oh, there was that dog that attacked me and forgot about that. And there was that one incident over here where my cousin was being a jerk and I totally buried that. And there was the time I was singing Disco Duck and I got humiliated. Anybody remember that song, Disco Duck?
Yes.
Disco, Disco Duck.
Problem.
Don't be a cluck. Come try your luck.
You might want to sing that one anymore.
But there was a huge developmental trauma in there because I was humiliated at like 7 or 8. And developmentally, it really shut me down and never made me, I didn't dance for about 20 years. Yeah, it was like, I'm an idiot, Disco Duck, PTSD. So,
I really appreciate the hospitality, but both under my words tomorrow.
okay, I'm going to finish this up actually right now. The final thought here is that these sensory gates are around the thalamus, and we have a normal amount that we filter out. Because if we could perceive everything going on around us, we would go insane. So we filter, and what entheogens do, that's why you have to have a teacher, a guide, because if you don't know what it's like to be blown open into a jigsaw puzzle where you're in the divine and there's no longer a you, but yet there's still awareness, that's where people go nuts. And I'm not a fan of what they're doing out there now with all the drugs and the entheogens without proper training in reality. It's like a kite without anyone holding the kite string down below. So I'm completely against all that. You do 5 years of yoga, you do your embodiment work, and then you do that stuff. All my teachers would agree with me. So, because you're unfiltering. Why are there so many cannabis users? Because there's 2 psychology studies. People who use cannabis have a harder time being brainwashed than those who don't. And the other is the gates are opening up. That's what the paranoia is. The paranoia is a very real, you've opened up a part of yourself and now you're seeing things you never saw before. But guess what? The beings on the other side are also watching you now. And that's the paranoia. I'm being watched. Yeah, you are. You're playing around in realms that you don't even know what the hell you're playing around in. You know, your head's a little punching bag for them. Oh, look at this little thing popping up here. I'm not joking. That's what it feels like to some people.
Yeah.
So we play around with this stuff. And in today's world, it's another propaganda brainwash, another way to distract and dumb down. You know, me and Gene like this song. It's called Silence. And one of the lines is, in the silence, I believe. And I was telling Annie this, like all of my majorest revelations, all my major growth came in silence. Because that's the root. That's the darkness. It's where everything comes out of that darkness, silence. And we go to this blah, 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 and talk therapy and drug therapy and entheogens. No. In the end, it's all silence, because that's where we go in the end anyways. We die into the silence. So that's why St. Matthew said, die before you die. That's a good ending point. So we are teaching this, and if you're watching this recording, this is kind of what we're here to do. Is if you're still watching these recordings, I mean, my God, you are definitely into a, you know, like I'm not easy to put up with, because, you know, look at me up here. So thank you for watching this recording, and there's lots more of this next 2 weeks. Thank you very much.